A positive story today from the Palazzo del Ghiaccio, the historic home of ice hockey in Milan, which just shows what can be achieved by conserving and repurposing pre-existing buildings. After all, in the words of the architect Carl Elefante, the greenest building is the one that already exists.
Siamo al Palazzo del Ghiaccio di Via Piranesi.
We're at the Ice Palace in Via Piranesi, where the people of Milan came to learn to skate and watch ice hockey matches for 80 years or more. Ice hockey in Milan has been in decline for many years, although it's still the Italian city with the most national championships, more than 30 by the various clubs that came and went between the 1920s and the early 2000s.
Più di 30 titoli nazionali di hockey su ghiaccio. È un luogo storico perché
It opened in December 1923. So it's seen over 100 years of history on a site already connected to refrigeration and ice production, adjacent to an old ice factory.
la cosiddetta fabbrica del ghiaccio.
The driving force behind the Ice Palace was Count Alberto Bonaccossa, the son of a wealthy manufacturing family.
Ma la sua passione
But rather than becoming an industrialist like his father, he devoted himself to his passion, sport, as a practice and a culture. He was a famous mountaineer who opened trails and climbed most of the Alps. He was an oarsman, a runner, a motorcyclist and a footballer. And during his time studying at the Zurich Polytechnic, it is said that he played fullback for Grasshoppers Zurich. But above all, his passion was skating.
Bonaccossa's Ice Palace became the home of ice hockey in Milan, but more than that, it witnessed and sometimes hosted the transformation of the city's culture after the Second World War.
alla fine degli anni 50
In the 1950s, the Ice Palace hosted Italy's first rock and roll festival, and young people came to see the dancers and listen to the music. A young Italian rocker called Adriano Celentano, in his early 20s or a little older, fronted a band that screamed and thrashed around the stage with him. The guitarist Enzo Iannacci was at the centre of Milan's musical history for the next half century. The dance competition was called the Orange Soda Trophy, and it caused a scandal in conservative Milan. All those screaming kids were slated the next day by the Archbishop of Milan, Monsignor Montini, who became the Pope a few years later.
Papa Paolo VI. Questo spazio è stato riconvertito, rigenerato.
The Ice Palace has been converted, repurposed. It's no longer practical for sport, but the current owners have dedicated it to cultural events, mainly fashion, but also corporate conventions, concerts and exhibitions. It interacts with its surroundings. The Porta Vittoria railway yard used to be here, and the old slaughterhouse and the fruit and vegetable market. It's a place of historical memory represented in its architectural structure and its surroundings.
Architettonica e al suo contorno.
In other words, unlike other venues imposed on local people without a thought for their history and character, Milan's Ice Palace resonates with the lived experience of a real community.